This is Risky Women Radio, a show to connect, celebrate, and champion women in risk, regulation, and compliance, sharing insight and perspective from the most influential members of our global Risky Women network on the latest developments we need to think about, the challenges we should all talk more about, and the innovation we are most excited about in governance, risk, and compliance. Bringing together the hundreds of senior women professionals already connected with a new emerging group of leading women and men. I'm Kimberly Cole, your Chief Risky Woman.
So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, we've talked a lot, right? And thank you for all the valuable information you provided. But my question to you is, how do you measure a successful compliance and privacy program, right? What is the best way to know that it's having the impact it needs, right? That you are helping to drive that innovation that you talked about earlier. And then to show your team the successes that they're building, right? All the time to give them that feedback.
Well, there are a lot of standardized metrics that people use, whether it's for a privacy program or a compliance program. Of course, we tend to go off the 10, 11, 12 elements of an effective program per the DOJ and SEC guidance. But you want to be looking at your program again. Is it working? When you do your risk assessment, take a look at do that risk assessment. What is happening in your company? What is happening in your industry? What are the family jewels that you want to protect in terms of data protection and information security? But also, what are the areas where your particular business might be weakest and lack some maturity? And then also in terms of the industry. And again, we talked about partners and vendors and the value chain and all of that. So do that risk assessment for your compliance program if that's your specialty. And then take a look at those areas where you really need to be improving things. The good news is that DOJ expects continuous improvement. And so you will always have a chance to do more, even if you believe you're really, really good in something. Every year or two, you might want to go back and revisit that and just make sure. So there's lots of metrics. That's a long way of saying you've got those elements, and then you've got lots of ways to measure how many people are you training, how many people are doing their training on time. I mentioned earlier, the hotline, how many folks are calling into your hotline, and how many people are leaving a name versus anonymously. Ethisphere has some terrific statistics about businesses and companies that have these really robust speak up cultures also tend to retain employees better, and they tend to be competitive in the stock market. So there are lots of measurements out there that people use. How do you then really judge success, though? Because things will go wrong, right? Whether it's a cybersecurity attack, God forbid, or an employee messing up and clicking on something, or whatever it might be. Things do go wrong. So you have to also think about not just kind of things that are standardized metrics, which are good, but you want to think about too, what's your response time? So, how are you building that resiliency? First, you have to recognize the issue and identify the issue. If you're not a subject matter expert, right, and somebody dealing with risk or privacy or cyber every day, does your employee who has some other really important job, do they recognize the issue? And then, as a company, as a team, how do you have the resiliency to figure out what went wrong? How do you stop the bleeding? How do you treat the issue? How do you, take those lessons and do your after action report? And maybe there's an opportunity for some, remediation or additional training or some tone at the top. Those types of things are really, I think, where you start to see your ROI, your return on investment of compliance. And also you start to see some effectiveness. So, a really simple metric, of course, is, maybe you had 10 calls to the hotline one quarter and you had, 75 the second quarter. That's a great, that shows that people are learning how to call in. That's terrific. I always tell people it's a good thing that people are calling. Sometimes senior management gets nervous. Oh, there's too many calls. No, there's no such thing. What you want to look at, of course, is your substantiation rate and what are the types of issues where you need corrective action. So there's lots of metrics out there. You should look at them. You should try to employ them. But then the sort of second round, maybe a bit more sophisticated analysis is, are people really understanding the message? And are we building that resiliency as an organization of spotting an issue, and how do we learn from it?
Thank you for listening to this exciting episode of Rescue Women Radio to connect, champion, and celebrate women in risk regulation and compliance. I'm Kimberly Cole, based in Hong Kong. For more information on the Risky Women Global Network, head to our website in the episode notes, and please be part of the ongoing conversation by subscribing to this podcast, connecting with us at Risky Women on Twitter, or even reaching out to me directly by email.